at any point in time you do not understand any part, please call our attention to it. If at any point in time you don't understand any part, please call our attention to it immediately. Let's talk about what web development is about. Please, for those of you that are just joining, kindly keep in mind that this class is being recorded so as not to display sensitive information on the screen. Now, we have in web development, we have three parts. We have the front end, we have the server, and we have the database. The front end, the server, and the database. The server and the database is usually referred to as back end. The server and the database, they are both referred to as back end. So let's talk about what we have in the front end and what we have in the back end. In order to explain this, I will use an example of a canteen. If you enter a canteen, then you're going to see the design of the canteen. You will see the color, the painting of the canteen. You will see the waiter or waitress. You will see those people that will attend to you there. All those things you can see, the design, the waiter and everything, those people are the front end, that they are part of the front end. Now, if you want to eat, then you order for your meal. Then somehow the person will go to the person that is the waiter now will serve you. After serving you, don't note that you are still interacting with the front end at this point. But this food coming to you is coming from a source, from the kitchen. This food coming to you is being prepared somewhere at the kitchen. This kitchen, where your food is being prepared, is known as the server. Meaning that before information is brought to the front end, it is being processed at the server, then brought to the front end to you. Now, whatever food you are going to cook at the kitchen is being fetched from another source, from the store. You can have up to 10 bags of rice in the store, and you may only be interested in cooking maybe few cups. Now, this store that contains these bags of rice, this information that stores this part, that cater for storage of this information, is known as the database. So we have three parts: the front end, where you interact with; the server, where information is being processed before given to you; and the database, where your information is being stored. Now, and I said earlier that the combination of the server and the database is known as the back end. So we can say that the back end is responsible for both storing and processing information and giving it to the front end. Do you understand the part? The explanation? Do you have any question as regarding the explanation?
Not for now.
Okay, sir. So, when we build our application, we will have a part where users see, and that is the front end. We have another part where information is being processed, that is the server, and we have another part where information is being stored, that is the database. I will use Facebook as an example. When you register on Facebook, or when you go to Facebook, if you are new to Facebook, the first thing will be that you register. Then you will see a form, fill your first name, you fill your information there. The form and everything you can see on the page is the front end. That's the part you are interacting with. After filling your information, the Facebook application now is going to take your information and take it to somewhere to process it. That place is known as the server. Then finally, your information is stored somewhere. That is the database. And it doesn't just contain your information, but the information of every other user, or every other person that visits Facebook. So the database stores everything. When it's time to log in, how then does Facebook know that you are the one side to log in? Again, it starts with the front end. You fill your email and password, or phone number and password. That's still the front end. After that, it takes it to the server to process it. Then it now goes to database and check if this information exists in the database. If it does, then it goes back to the server. The server will process it before giving you back at the front end. So if it's successful, you log in, then it's going to be successful. If not, it will tell you not successful. So at this level 1, at this stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, we have the front end. We'll be looking at the front end. Then at the stage 4, we look at the server and database. Stage 4, we look at both the server and the database. Then the last 2 stages, stage 5 and 6, we go into Web3 development. Now, before we proceed, let me ask us if we have any question. Let's proceed. So at the front end, we have 3 important things. Number 1, we have HTML, we have CSS, and we have JavaScript. We have the HTML, we have the CSS, and we have the JavaScript. Let's look at each of these parts. At the first stage, you are going to be considering HTML and CSS here. At the second stage, you'll be looking at JavaScript. Let's look at what HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, what they are meant for. HTML is a structure, a layout of your page. How it will, the layout is like a foundation of your page. But it is ugly. HTML is like a skeleton. Skeleton is ugly, but you build on this skeleton. So that is what HTML is. It's the layout of your page. It's like a skeleton on your page where you build other things on. Next is the CSS. The CSS helps you to beautify your page. It makes it beautiful, to style it. So it's like the makeup of your page. Then the last one, which is JavaScript, is the brain of your page, is the logic behind the page, is the functionality, is the one responsible for the functionality of your page. So with HTML, you have a skeleton. With CSS, you have the skin, it is covered up. Then with JavaScript now, you have your page is now, if your page happens to be a human being, with HTML we have the skeleton, with CSS we have the body, the flesh. Then with the JavaScript now, your page can now talk, speak, dance, and do a lot of other things. So it's like the brain behind your page, the functionality, the energy, the power of your page. So let's start with the very first one. Let's create the skeleton, which is the HTML. Again, I believe everybody here has installed either Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text or Atom, as we discussed on the group. So I'll be using one of these 3. And okay, let me start with Visual. Okay, I think I have Sublime Text here already. Let's start with Sublime Text. I will share my screen so that you can see my screen. Can we see my screen now? Hello everyone, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So before we start, I will close everything here. And this is an empty page. When you download this, you see something like this. The first time you open it, you just see an empty page. Now, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Hypertext Markup Language. This is the full meaning of HTML. Well, maybe the definition, well, is not so important. Let's go to, I will create a folder I'll put it on desktop. And I can call it HTML class. So this is an empty file. The first thing is this: you save this empty file. You save this empty file. Just press Ctrl S.
Please, can I ask a question?
Okay, sir.
Should we open our own and do what you are doing, or what? Or you just be paying attention to what you are doing?
Okay, we can code along. You can code along. Please, you can open yours and also do it along with me. I won't be fast. So that I'll be able to type along too. And also, it's even a good thing if you code along, because if you may think you get some things, but while coding along, you realize that, oh, it's according to what I'm doing. Maybe it's working at my own end, and you seem to type the same thing, and you realize that it's not working at your end. You can be able to ask questions. Oh, I typed this thing at my end now, and it's not working. So this is the folder I just created, HTML class. I will double click on it. Then I will give my file a name. I will give it any name of my choice. But please, as much as possible, avoid spaces. Don't let the name have spaces. Not that it's not going to work, but it's not a good practice. Avoid spaces. So I can just call it, let me just call it first dot. Now, next is this. I decide to call it first. I can call it anything. I can call it my name. I can call it any name. Sorry, someone wants to join the class. Let me quickly allow the person in. So I can call it any name of my choice. I can call it my name. Just give it any name of your choice. So in this case, I'm calling it Taye. But before we name it, I need to now talk about something we call extension. Extension. When you are dealing with pictures, you realize that if you check the name of a picture, it usually ends with something .jpg or .png. What we have at the back is extension. That .jpg, PNG, those ones are extensions for pictures. Now, the purpose of the extension is this. Let's say I send a picture to you on WhatsApp and you download it. Immediately you download it and you try to open it, WhatsApp will automatically suggest applications that open pictures. It can suggest Google Photos, or your gallery. It's going to automatically suggest applications that open pictures. Let's say I send file to you, maybe PDF, if the PDF to you on WhatsApp. Immediately you download it and you try to open it, WhatsApp will automatically suggest applications that open files, such files, PDF files. The way it's able to do all this is because of the extension at the back. It uses the extension to know how to open it. So the extension is like something telling the applications on your device how to open it or the type of file it is. In the same way also, let's go back here. In the same way, we are going to add an extension to it. We've given it a name. Then you can give it any extension. You give it an extension. The extension for HTML is .html. The extension for HTML is .html. So you give it any name and you end it with .html. This tells your device that this is an HTML file and it is to be opened with a web browser. Then you save it. Any question? Can we proceed? If you are getting it, say I'm getting it.
Yes. I'm getting it.
If you are not getting it, say I'm not getting it. Hello everyone.
I'm getting it.
Okay. Let's proceed. There's something we call tags. HTML tags. let's look at what a tag is. Remember at the beginning of the class, I said HTML is like the skeleton of your page, the foundation. To understand this very well, I will open MS Word. I will liken HTML to MS Word. So I will open Word now and I explain some things using Word. One way to understand the simplicity of HTML is to look at it from this perspective, as though you want to create a word. Look at it from this perspective. Look at it from the perspective of MS Word. Whatever you can do in MS Word, you can also do using your HTML. You can do it within your HTML. But in this case, you are using code. In case of HTML, you are using code. While in case of Word, you are not using code. You are just highlighting using what we call GUI. So in this case, you are just using in MS Word. You use these things. They've been done. They are already there. So just select them. But in HTML, you are writing codes. Now these codes, they are commands. They are commands. Now let's look at this from this way. Let's say I have three students. I have Taiwo, I have Kenny, I have three students. Taiwo, Kenny, Ido. I want to give the Taiwo the command to sleep. Where she's coming from? Okay. So we have three students. We have the Taiwo, we have Kenny, we have Ido. These three students, let's say they are my students, and I want Taiwo to sleep. But meanwhile, I don't want Kenny and Ido to sleep. So in HTML, we have what we call tags. These tags, they are like commands. So I can say, Taiwo, sleep. If I want to do this using MS Word, then it means that maybe there will be something here called sleep. Then I can now say, let's say I have Taiwo, I have Kenny, I have Ido. In MS Word, if I want Taiwo to be bold, I will highlight Taiwo and click on bold. If I want this to be underlined, Kenny to be underlined, I will highlight Kenny and click on I. This way of highlighting it and choosing what you want is a way of commanding it to obey you. You are commanding it to obey you. The same way also, we now do this same thing in HTML using tags. These commands, this way of commanding things, we don't have the B here, we don't have the I here, we don't have the U here like we have in Word, like we have in Microsoft Word. We don't have all those things here. But in this case, we'll be using something we call tag, an HTML tag, to give it a command. Do this for us, be bold. Make it, italicize it, underline it. You'll be using tags to do these things. But so this is how you write a tag. A tag starts with a less than, then the name of the tag. So this is a tag. You've opened the tag. Don't worry, you understand it better. Then let's close it. Let's see how a tag looks like. The less than, the name of the tag, and the greater than, you've opened it. Then to close it, the less than, a forward slash, the name of the tag, and this. Notice this slash. It differentiates this from this. This is the beginning of a tag. This is the end of a tag. We call this the opening tag, and we call this the closing tag. According to what we have there, all I'm just saying is Taiwo sleep. If I want Taiwo and Kenny to sleep, I will remove this closing tag from here and I'll move it here. So what I'm saying is whatever is within this sleep now must sleep. So I'm saying that Taiwo and Kenny should sleep. If I want the three of them to sleep, I will remove this closing tag from here and I'll put it here. So I'm saying Taiwo, Kenny, Idowu, all of you sleep. If I only want Kenny and Idowu to sleep, I will remove the opening from this place and I'll put it at the beginning of Kenny. So what I'm saying here is only Kenny and Idowu should sleep. Taiwo will not sleep. If I only want Kenny to sleep, I will remove the closing from this place and I'll put it here. So what I'm saying here is Kenny sleep. Taiwo will not sleep. Idowu will not sleep. So to write a tag, you put less than, then the name of the tag. Let's say I want Idowu to jump. I will just come here and say less than, jump, greater than. Then I will go to the end and do it like this. So what I'm saying here is Idowu jump. So only Idowu will jump. Taiwo and Kenny will not jump. Any questions so far? Can we proceed?
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So what I'm saying here is just to write a tag, less than the name of the tag, greater than, that's the opening tag. Then whatever you want to apply it to will be in the middle, and then you close it. The difference between opening tag and a closing tag is this forward slash. That differentiates opening tag from a closing tag. Let's look at a scenario whereby you refuse to add closing tag. Maybe you only used opening tag and you refuse to add closing tag.
Sorry, sir.
Yes,
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Can I get the screen again?
Sir?
When you were adding the tag, I discovered that in the first one there was a space between the tag and the name, but the other one there was no space. Does that matter or?
No, it doesn't matter. I can choose to add space or not.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Now, next is this. Imagine I added this sleep tag here without closing it. What this is going to do, it means that everything on this page, Taiwo will not sleep because this tag is after Taiwo. But Kenny and Idowu will sleep. And not just them alone, any new thing I had, any new thing added will also sleep. If I had a new person, let's say I added James will also sleep. Whatever I had, since I didn't close it, I'm not telling it where to stop. The closing tag is a way of telling it to stop at a particular point. So since I'm not giving it a closing tag, it means that everything on this page will obey this command, sleep. Like everything after this sleep, except Taiwo, since Taiwo is before that tag. But Kenny, Idowu, James, and anything that comes after it will sleep, which is bad. So whenever you open a tag, please close it. Close it. Once you open a tag, then we close it again. In order to give it a boundary, telling it that this is where I want you to stop. I don't want it to just continue like that. Any question? Now, let's proceed. Well, HTML doesn't have sleep, jump, and all these are verbs. It doesn't. I only use this for the sake of explanation. So let's write HTML codes. We're going to look at a tag called HTML. Let's explain everything we have on this page, one after the other. In fact, I will delete everything so that we take them one after the other. We have the first line. This first line is a way of, we have what we call HTML5. We have different versions of HTML. The latest one is the HTML5. So this being at the top of your page is a way of telling the web browser that the codes we have here, they are HTML5 codes, and it is important you add them because the syntax of these versions, of these different versions of HTML, are not the same. We have some things that were introduced in HTML5 that were not in HTML4, and a lot of other things like that. Some things were removed from HTML4 and that are not part of HTML5. So this first line is a way of telling the web browser that whatever we have on this page is HTML5. Let's proceed and look at other things. The first tag we'll be looking at is this HTML, then HTML. Note that this first line doesn't have a closing tag. we are not going to close this. We are not going to close the tag. But every other tag that we are going to use, or most of them will be closed. Most of them will be closed. But this first line, you are not closing it. Now, we have this HTML. That is, whatever is within this place must
Sorry,
follow.
please. Sorry, sir.
Yes, sir.
Why are we not closing the first?
Because that's the syntax for HTML5. Like, as time goes on, we're going to look at what we call some self-closing tags. We're going to look at that as we proceed. There are some few tags, very few tags that we don't close. Just few of them. They are not much. Most tags are to be closed, but very few ones are not to be closed. So this is one of them. You are not closing this, but you close almost every other tag. Only few of them. We are only going to close only few of them. And when at the right time, we will discuss that. For now, this is the only self-closing tag that we are going to consider for now. That is the tag that we won't close. But every other tag, at least for now, will be closed. They will all be closed. Any question? Okay, so we have this HTML. This is beginning of HTML, and this is the end of HTML. And what we are saying is this: everything inside this place must obey the command of HTML, meaning that we just want to write HTML codes within this place. This is the version, telling us the version. This is HTML5, while this is HTML general, whether for or any version of HTML. Let's proceed. Inside this place, we have the head and the body. So, this is the beginning of the head, while this is the beginning of the body. Let's look at the meaning of head and body. I will run this page on the browser. I want to open it on the browser. To open it on the browser, you right click on your device and you click on Open in Browser. So, whatever is here is the body. Whatever you want to display in this big area is the body. While head refers to this upper part of your page. Do we understand? Whatever is here is the body, while head refers to this upper part of your page. Aside that, head of the page is like the information about that page. Yes, you want to give some information about that page. Do we understand this? The head of
So we can liken that. We can liken that to the title bar in MS Word. Am I correct?
Yes, something like that, sir. Yes, sir. So just to give us information about this page, that is what we put inside the head. But whatever you want the users to see, you put that in the body. Let's start with one thing inside this head. Look at this. Before I write this code, I want you to notice something. Do you notice what we have here? The name of the file. We also have taye.html here. That's the name of the file.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, I will write something here now. I will come here and add a title. And I can say, my class. That is giving me information about the page. A title, like this should be the title of the page. What I'm just saying is, this, my class, should be the title of the page. This is the opening tag. Why this is the closing tag. How we save it and run it on the browser. Do you notice that this has changed to my class? That's because I've changed the title. By default, the name of the file's name, will automatically be the title, but you cannot give it a title of your choice. So in this case, I'm naming it my class, and when I run it on the browser, it's going to change here. Any question? Let's proceed. Now, I said something that whatever you want your users to see, whatever you want to display at this part of your page, you put it inside the body. So let's go to the body and do some things there. I'll say, I am a boy. So I've added this in the body. And when I get to my page, I will see it there. So I am a boy. Any question? Can you see it is simple? HTML is very simple. So add quotes here in the body. Press Ctrl S to save. You press Ctrl S to save it. And when you get to your browser, you refresh it, or you press Ctrl R. Press Ctrl R, then it's going to automatically refresh, and we have it here. In our next class, we are going to use Visual Studio Code to write some codes also, so that we get used to Visual Studio Code also. In case you want to use any of them, you can use either Sublime Text or Visual Studio Code or any other code editor, but these are very common editors, Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text. So in our next class, we see how to use Visual Studio Code to do the same thing that we are currently doing. But for now, for tonight, we're going to continue with Sublime Text. Let's move on. So I am a boy. I can add other things. I can say this is a goat. And again, when I run it on the browser, I will say this is a goat. Do you observe that although this is on another line, on the page, it's as though the line has been removed? Do we observe that?
Why?
The reason is this. HTML has this way of removing all these extra spaces. It's going to automatically remove all the extra spaces. Still today, in today's class, we are going to look at how to, if you want to go to the next line, how to do that. We're going to look at that together. So it has this way of removing all extra spaces on your page, all the extra spaces you remove. So let's move on. So the reason I'm telling us is, in case we see it, we don't get surprised. So that then as time goes on, you see how to add it back. If you want it to, then you can add it back. Let's look at some other tags together. So we have the doc type, which is the one that tells us it is HTML5. We have the HTML. Then inside this HTML, we have the head and the body. The head gives us information about the page, and the body gives us information we want to display to our users. So still within the body, we're going to look at the H1 to H6 tags. We call this the heading tags. Heading tags. Let's look at the very first one, H1. Now, H1, the heading tags, they are used to tell your page that this is an heading of my page. Like this is an heading. Let's say I want to write about animals. So I can say H1. The H1 is like the most important thing. It's like the most important heading. Then we have the H2, which is less important. We have the H3, which is less important, on and on like that in H6. H1 is like the main heading of the page. H2 is like a subheading to H1. H3 is like a subheading to H2. H4 is like a subheading to H3, on and on like that till you get to H6. H6 is the last one. So H1 is like the main heading of your page. H2 is like a subheading to H1. H3 is like a subheading to H2, on and on like that. So let's say I want to write about animals. I can say animals. So this is like the main heading of my page. And if I run it on the browser, can you see it is big? So this is heading. Then I can now write about animals here. I can say animals, say maybe eukaryotes, something like this, just eukaryotes. Then under animals, I can now choose to write about mama. Now mama is under animals, like a subheading to H1, so I can use H2. When we get to the browser, you will see that it will be a bit smaller than H1. Then under mammals, let's cite one or two things about mammals. I can say mammals, I think Is it false? Yes. So we have this. Under mammals, we can also have primates, which is another subheading. So this primate is a subheading to mammals. So it will also be a bit smaller than this. But note that all of them are bold. All of them are bold, H1 to H6. Now we also, let's just write others. We have H4. I can just say Taiwo, let me just say Taiwo, H5, Taiwo. Then finally H6, Taiwo. So do you notice that the size is getting smaller and smaller and smaller? There is no H7. We only have H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. And all of them are bold. But the main heading is the H1, subheading H2, subheading under H2 is H3, H4, H5, H6. Any question? Now, you might have this misconception. You might have this misconception about the tags, the H1 to H6. Maybe they are used to make text bold. You might have the misconception that they are meant to make text bold. No, they are not meant to make text bold. Although, when using them, the text will be bold. But the primary purpose of H1 to H6 is not to make the text bold at all. The purpose is this. When you go to Google or any search engine and you search for anything, it's going to use this H1 to H6, this H tags, to search for that text. Let's say I search about books. If you take that book and start searching to web pages for this H tags that is on books, do we understand? If you are lost, please let us know.
No, sir, I don't get that aspect very
Okay.
well.
I said although H1 to H6 make your text bold, as you can see, animals is bold, mammals is bold, primates is bold. This Taiwo, all the three Taiwos here, they are all bold, although in different sizes, because this is the biggest, this is the main tag, why this is the least subheading. All of them are bold. So one might have the misconception that the purpose of this H1 to H6 is to make the text bold. So I'm saying that no, the purpose is not to make a text bold. Instead, is to help search engines on your page, in accessing your page, in indexing your page. When, let's say, someone search for animals online, it's going to now go to the pages. It's going to, the way search engine works is this. They use these tags to find information for you. So web crawlers or these search engines now, they will start moving across different pages and be looking at these H tags and look for those ones that are on animals. So they are headings, not just to make a text bold. You know, a text can be bold, but may not really be important. For instance, let's say on this page I want to write about myself, and I can say I love animals. I'm writing about myself now, not about animals. It is wrong for me. Maybe I want this animal to be bold. It is wrong for me to now use any of the H to make it bold. It is wrong. The reason is this: when search engines when anybody search about animals, it's going to fetch the information of my page. It's going to give it to the person. And you will agree with me that the information of this page is less about animal, but more about myself. Do we understand? Oh, sorry. I will remove this for now. Let's say I want to write about myself. I say my name is Taiwo. I am a software developer. I am currently teaching HTML. I love animals. So let's say I want animals to be bold. I want this animal. It is wrong for me to use any of the H to make it bold. It is wrong. Even though using any of them will make it bold. It is very wrong. Reason is because when people search for animals online, it's going to go to my page and also fetch my page as part of the results. And you will agree
Okay.
with me that the content of this page is not about animals.
Okay.
Do we get it?
Yes.
Yes.
So the content of this
Yes.
page is not about animals, rather it's about maybe myself. So this is not good to use this age to make text bold, even though when you use any of them, the text automatically becomes bold, but it's a bad
Both.
practice for you to use it purposely to make a text bold. Instead, you use it to specify headings so that when anybody search about that particular heading, then the search engine can easily fetch your page and give it to the person. Can we proceed?
Yes.
Okay. So how will we go back to where we were? Okay. So we have looked at the H1 to H3. Let's look at some other tags together. We're going to be looking at the strong. The strong. So let's say I say I love programming. And I want to call attention to programming, then I can use strong. I love programming. So when I go to the browser, this will be bold. It's going to be bold. Well, let me before I go more on this. If it's not a cool plan. Well, while you can easily use this term to make a test board, while you can, like I don't discourage you as much as I discourage using H1 to H6. Like I strongly discourage you from using H1 to H6 to make test board. I strongly discourage it. But this one is still like permissive. Like you are still permitted to a reasonable extent. But then, that's not the primary purpose of this term. The primary purpose of this song is to call attention to something. Maybe you want to call attention to something on your page. Do we understand? That's the primary purpose of this song. With this now, anybody reading this page, the person's attention will be called to this programming. Like this thing, like something like saying this thing requires special attention, something like that. And this also helps search engines too. If you want to make anything bold, all those things should be done with CSS. I told you that CSS is meant for styling, beautification of our page. So if you want to do all those styling, make it bold, beautify it, and all those things, you can use CSS. The instructor that will take you CSS will explain more on that part. So another thing that is similar to this song is the EM, which stands for emphasis. You want to emphasize something. I can say, good evening, and I want evening to be emphasized, so I will use the EM. So I close it. So evening will be in italics. It's going to be emphasized. So this evening is emphasized. Any question? Now, we also have some tags that, well, I can say they are duplicated. I mean, they have been removed. Let's say, how are you doing? I can use the B tag, which is bold, something similar to what you have here. Something similar to this tongue, and they will give you the same results. This and this tongue and this bold, they give you similar results. Can you notice? Do you notice that the U is bold? Hello, everybody.
Yes.
The U is bold, and the reason is being removed.
Now with you.
Is that? Okay, you are with me. The U is bold, and the reason it was removed is just to tell us that HTML is not mainly used for styling. It's not mainly used for styling. You should use CSS. That's why it was replaced with strong. Purpose of strong is not just to bold it, but just to call our attention to it. The same thing also, we used to have something we call I tag. which is for italics. Let's say I want this out to be italicized. I'll just say hi. Again, it has been replaced with EM, because if you want to italicize, you can always use your CSS to do that. So do you notice that the how is also in italics? So we have how in italics, and we have evening also in italics. So this is the I tag, why this is the EM tag. Don't use the I tag, use the EM tag to draw emphasis onto something. Any question? Now let's move on to another thing, another tag. We're just going to look at some of these tags together. Another tag we'll be looking at is the UL, something like this. Oh, sorry, U tag. This thing. We've looked at the B, we've looked at the I. We want to look at the U, which is to underline something. So I want to say good morning class, and I want to underline everything. So I will go to the beginning of the tag and put U, then I go to the end and put and close it. So it automatically underline this tag, this thing for me, this text thing. This text. So we have it underlined. Let's look at some other tags together.
But sir, excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are you indirectly teaching us the CSS now?
No, we are still using HTML.
Because what you are doing now is also about styling.
Yes. Well, what happened is this: before CSS was introduced, HTML was used to do almost everything.
Okay.
So as time goes on, there was now need to separate these things from each other, so that there would be something like should I call it a language now, mainly for creating markup alone, and there will be another one for styling alone. So they are still somewhat interwoven, but and that's because of the origination of the origin of all these things. From beginning, they were together, and as time goes on, started separating them. Do we understand? So that's why you still see that we are using HTML to do some of these things. But when we get to CSS, we will be using CSS to do everything about styling. Everything about styling.
Okay.
Let's proceed again to some other interesting tags. We have the paragraph tag. So inside the paragraph, this is like saying this should be a paragraph. I can say this is the paragraph, and when I run it, of course you just see it there. Now the advantage of this is this. Let me come here again and create another P tag. This is another paragraph. So this and this will not be on the same line. They will be on two different lines. You can see they are on two different lines. They are no longer on the same line. That takes us to something we call inline elements and block elements. Inline elements are, let me just use inline tags and block tags. Most times we use tags and elements interchangeably. Inline elements and block elements. Inline elements, or tags as we have it here, are those elements that that share their lines with other things. So we understand better. Let's first look at block. Block elements don't share. Inline elements share. Meaning that if I have a block element, no other thing can share that line with it. Like it automatically takes the whole line. No other thing can stand on the same line with it. Meanwhile, inline elements on the other hand can share their lines with other items, with other tags. A good example of inline element is this U. I can come here and say hi, and when we go to the browser, you will see that this I will be together with this good morning class. In fact, even if it's on another line, it will still be on the same line when we get to the browser, because U is an inline element. It can share its line with other items. So this I will be on the same line with you. All tags are either inline elements or block elements. Some of them are inline, some of them are block. So this U is an example of the inline, meaning that it can share its line with other items. We have the I here. Meanwhile, if you try to do the same thing with the paragraph, it's not going to allow this I to stay here. Instead, if you push it to another line, it doesn't share its line with any other thing. So to push this I to the next line. And remember, this is another p tag. This p tag also doesn't want to share its own line with any other thing. So at the end of the day, this I will be between the two paragraph tags, because both of them will never share their line with other items. Let's on it. So we have, this is a paragraph, we have the I, and we have, this is another paragraph. So a p tag is a block element, meaning that it doesn't share its line with other items. It takes the whole line. This is a block element. Any question? Let's proceed. There are many tags to consider, and as much as possible, I'm trying to cover as many tags as we can in this class. Now, there's something we call commenting. Commenting is a way of telling your browser to ignore the quotes here. You are just telling your browser, ignore the quotes here. So let's say I want my browser to ignore these two lines. I will just highlight them on my computer and press Ctrl /. What I'm saying is I'm telling my browser to ignore this thing. So when we get to the browser, we are not going to see these two lines. We will see every other thing on this page except these two lines. Now, what do we use this for? It's a way of writing information about your page. Let's say I want, of course, when you are building projects, most times you are not the only one working on it. You have other developers working with you on that same project. And maybe you want to add information for other developers to see, but not for your users to see. So you can add it as comments on your page. Since whatever we have in comments will be ignored by the browser, it's not going to be read on the browser. So you can add comments. It also helps you as an individual, because after many years, you might want to go back to this same code, and if you are not careful, it may look so confusing, like so different from what you typed. In fact, you may ask yourself, did I write this at a particular time? Like, you just be so confused. So, but with comments, it makes work easy. You can just add some information. Okay, this is the reason I added this. This is the beginning of this. This is the end of this. And like that. So it makes it easy. It's like you are adding comments, information for you and other developers to see, or for a reason for doing something. They are usually added as comments. This is the reason I added this p tag. This is the reason I added this. So you can add it as comments. Any question?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
I'm not clear about this last this last part that you introduced.
Okay.
I'm really lost.
Okay. I talked about comments.
Okay.
Whatever you comment is ignored on the browser. Is ignored by the browser. Whatever you comment out is ignored by. Meaning that if I write, let me remove everything on this page now and say hello. Normally, the browser will read this hello. But I want to tell the browser to ignore this hello. So all I need to do is to highlight it and press Ctrl /. Do you notice that it is now like blur? So it has been commented out. What I'm just saying is, I'm telling the browser to ignore the quotes here. So when we go to the browser now, we won't see anything. Later I refresh, it's not there again. And what this means is this allows us to add informations. You know, you are building websites for people to use. But with comments, whatever you write here will not be available on the browser when users get to your page. Whatever you comment out will not be available for the users. So this now allows you to add some information for other developers to see. if you are working on a project, most likely you won't be the only one working on it. It's going to be like a collaboration. Other developers will also be seeing your code and will be adding theirs. They'll be like, you won't be working solely. You'll be working with many other developers on the same project. So with these comments now, you can add messages for other developers to see. Since those developers will have access to these codes, they will see your codes.
Okay.
So you can add comments or messages there for them to see, for them to understand some things. You might write some code and it may look confusing to other people. You may be the only one that understand this, which is not good anyway. But you may be the only one that understand it. So you want them to understand it. You can just add a comment. Let me give an example. Let's say I want to write about let's say docs. So I can say h2 docs. So I can now add a comment. I can say doc paragraph begins here. So I've commented it there. I can now write a paragraph on doc. A dog is a domestic animal. Then it asks for nuts. Then it likes to it pays a lot. So this is the beginning. Dog paragraph begins, and then I can now come here and say dog paragraph so anybody that sees this now knows that, oh, I'm about to start. Whatever Peter guy see is beginning of the dog paragraph, and whatever once I see this, I know this paragraph has ended. So it's just a way of adding some messages for other developers, not for you. Now when another developer wants to work on this now, it knows that if I want to add anything about doc, then it should be within this paragraph. If I want to add more information to docs, then it should be within this paragraph. It's just for other developers to understand your code now. Do we understand?
Okay, sir. I understand it, sir. But after highlighting those comments, what shortcut do you use?
Control / control plus /
Control
plus / control /
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. So this commenting, we're adding comments to our page. Let's proceed. Are we enjoying it? If you are tired, please inform me so we can. I don't want to bombard us with too many things. Okay, let's proceed. We are going to do a class work, and you'll be the one to suggest the codes I'll write for me. Okay, now here is it. I want to write information about myself. Then what do you think I need to do? I want to write composition about myself. What do you think I need to do?
Yeah, and in the title,
Okay.
between the two titles, you can write myself.
Okay. Myself like this. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, what next?
Yes, sir. I think after the title, you can still use H tag,
Like
as
this.
in, yes, subtype H1. Is it H1 tag? We can say my beginning.
I can say.
I can say my beginning. Maybe you want to do a brief history about yourself. My beginning.
Who can tell me what is
Okay.
wrong with this H1 here? Can tell me.
What I'm trying to achieve here is that this title has been the heading, be the broad heading, then this H1, my beginning, could serve as a uh, subsection 1,
Subheading.
No,
subheading, yes, exactly,
no. What I mean is,
of the
Yeah,
title
so
of the
I
book.
who can
think
tell me what is
it's
wrong with
Am I
it?
right?
Something is wrong with it
yes,
here.
Hello.
Hello.
yes,
I think the H1 tag got to be in the body, not in the head.
Good. It should be in the body, not in
For
the head.
the
So let's take it to the body now. Okay. What else?
okay,
Good. Good. Let's continue. What's
okay.
okay? What else am I to do now?
Then so we can say that my introduce by introducing yourself. Maybe my name is Abin Sekaude.
Okay.
Full stop. Just name. My name is
Hmm.
blah blah blah. Kayode. Full stop.
Okay.
I'm from Edo State. Yes. Okay. And then I am raised from a family of 5
Okay.
people.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What else are we to do?
Family of 5. Yes. Then we assuming that we are through with that subheading, we can go to H2. My school life. My school life.
Okay.
Let somebody take it from there.
Let's quickly make a bit. In fact, I love the way you are helping us out. It makes me to understand how much we understand what I've explained so far. So it's a very good thing. So let's make a little corrections to these things so that we understand these things better. In fact, that's the essence of asking this question so that we see how much we understand it. Number one, let's since I want to write about myself, I can start with H1 and say composition about myself. Now after this, I can now start with this can be H2. My beginning can be H2. Then this can be inside the P tags since it's going to be a paragraph like text. I can cut this and place it inside this P tag. Are we getting this? Then my school life is another subheading under composition about myself. It seems to be at the same level with my beginning. Like this, like a chapter of my life. This is another chapter of my life. So I shouldn't make this H3. No, it's at the same level with this. I don't know if you understand this. It's not a sub. No, my beginning is a subheading to composition about myself. But this my school life is not a subheading to my beginning. So I can still retain H2 here. Do you understand the purpose of using these things now? Just to
Okay.
Yes.
okay. So
Yes.
this is like a subheading
Okay.
under this composition about myself.
Mhm.
So I can now put information about my school life there. I can say maybe I went to let's say Edo State University. Then maybe I want my name is Kayode. I want it to be bold. Or this name Kayode, I want it to be bold. Like I said, for now we'll be using HTML to do that. So I can just use trunk. I want to draw emphasis to it. So in this case, so my name is Kayode. I am from Edo State. I'm raised in a family of 5. This. So this once you want to write text like this, you can keep it in a paragraph, like in a P tag. Like okay, this is a paragraph. Then we have this. Now it looks ugly. It's fine. When you get to CSS, you make it more beautiful. Any question?
no
Let's
question for
proceed
now.
and look at maybe 1 or 2 more tags before we call it a day. Now, I said something the other time. I talked about what we call self-closing tags. And I said self-closing tags are tags that you don't need to close. You only open them. And I used this as an example the other time. That we didn't close this. We closed every other, in fact, all the other tags we've used on this page, they are, we close them except this single line. So self-closing tags are tags that when you open them, you don't close them. And there are few of them. Let's look at one of them together. We have the input tag. Input tag. When you open an input tag, you don't close it. This allows you to get inputs from your user. That's the essence of input tag. To get inputs from your user. So how we save it and run it on the browser and see the results. Is this input? So your users can type here. Have you seen things like that, like this on pages?
Yes.
Okay, so input tag is used to do things like this to get inputs from the user. So your users can type in there, but you don't close them. Then another self-closing tag is the horizontal line. HR. You don't close it also. This will just do a straight line on your page. Can you see this straight line? You don't close that. Then when we get to multimedia, when we get to images under multimedia, we'll look at another self-closing tags. Now, we've looked at tags, but there are some things on that tag that we still need to consider. And we call those things attributes. We call those things attributes. The attributes of a tag, the properties of a tag, something like that. The characteristics of a tag. Each of these tags, each of them, has its own attributes. Now, at the beginning of the class, I explained, let me go to the bottom of this page. I will remove everything I want to type here after I'm done. I just want to use it for the sake of explanation. Now, at the beginning of this class, we did something like this. Taiwo, Kenny, and I said, if I want Taiwo and Kenny to sleep, I'll say, sleep. So with this, Taiwo and Kenny will sleep. But the question is, how deep do I want them to sleep? This is not specified. How deep do I want them to sleep? So attributes is like characteristics of this sleep. I want to add more information to this sleep. It's still under sleep. It's a characteristics of sleep. But I want to add more information to this sleep. Do we get it?
Okay.
Then I can add attributes. Are we following me?
Yes.
So let's look
Yes.
at some of these. Good, thank you. Let's look at some of these characteristics that I can add to sleep. I want to add about the depths. I can say, help me to add depths. Then if I want it to be sand, I can say sand. So the sleep will be sand. I can say shallow. So this will be a shallow sleep that you can wake up anytime. So this is giving us more information about this sleep. Let's proceed and look at another thing. Maybe I can also choose to, maybe while sleeping, I want them to use coverlets. I want them to use coverlets to cover themselves while sleeping. At the moment, I didn't specify that. I can add more information, but still note everything we are adding is still under sleep, and that is why it is here. It's before this greater than. It's still inside the opening tag. Are you following this thing? We are still within the opening tag, and it's within this place because we are just giving more information, more properties, more attributes to this sleep. These are known as attributes of a tag. So the question is, do I want them to use coverlet? If yes, then I can say coverlet. Then I can put so. That is if I want them to use coverlet, and I can put false if I don't want them to use coverlet. I'm still giving more information about this tag called sleep. Everything is still within the sleep. So these things are known as attributes. This is the key, and this is the value of that key. The key is depth. The value is of that depth is shallow. Another key is coverlet, and the value here is force. What I'm just saying is have a shallow slip and don't use coverlets. Do you understand it?
Yes.
So you can have a lot of other attributes like that. But you will also agree this with me that if I want to, let's say I want Idowu to, I can come here and say, hold on. Then it doesn't make sense for me to say coverlet, right? Because why should you run with coverlet? Are we getting it? Coverlet is okay with sleep, but it's not okay with run. It doesn't make sense. So each tag has its own specific attributes, meaning that you will realize that we use some attributes with inputs, but we can't use the same attributes with H1. We use some attributes with H1, but you can't use the same attributes with P tag. We use some attributes with P tag, but we can't use the same attributes with string. So each of these tags has its own attributes. It doesn't make sense for me to say coverlet equals to false because you are not going to be sleeping with to be running with coverlets. Instead, I can say speed, and I can set it to maybe 100 kilometers per hour. So this makes sense with run. But I can't add speed to sleep, like 100 kilometers per hour. Are you running in your turn? Do we get it?
Yes.
Okay. So let's look at some attributes together. So each of these tags has its own attributes. I can now say my inputs can have some attributes. Part of the attribute is type, is text. What this means is, inside this is the last tag we'll be considering today, inputs. What I'm just saying is, inside this input, I only want to take text. And the truth is this, even if you don't put any attribute here, the default type attribute of input is text. The default, whether it is there or not, the default is text. So the default is text. So you're not going to see any difference. But let's add another attribute and remove text. I would say number. So what I'm just saying is, inside this input, I only want my users to be able to type number. Or I'm expecting users to type number. I want to take only numbers here. So if I go to the page now, and the users will not be able to type text. I think some browsers still allow users to type text, but a lot of them don't also. So for this input tag, what I just trying to say is, I only want users to type numbers. If you observe, if you're on your phone, and you try to input your PIN, or you try to input something that deals with number alone, it will automatically pop up the number section of your phone and it will remove the alphabets. Do you notice it?
Yes.
So this is what happens with
Yeah.
this input type. Once you put number now, this automatically happens. Then we also have another input type called password, meaning that I only want to take password. I want this input type to take password. So if I start typing, you realize that it's not showing. Then let's look at some other input tags together. Some other type. We have input type color. Aha! The English we'll be using is American English, not British English. We'll be using American English. I think, as much as I know, everything is in American English. So don't put you here, please. Type color. This will allow your users to select color. Then input type email. Well, for now, we are not going to see much difference here. For now, in our next class, we'll go deeper into that. For now, this looks very much like input type text. It's not much difference for now. Then input type dates. This allows your user to select dates. So you can select dates. So these are some of the input types. Any question? Any question? Any question? Any question?
Oh,
Okay, let's have a summary. Let's summarize everything before I give us assignments for today, which we are going to submit in our next class. Summary. How we move everything now? Okay, let's go to the bottom here and write everything here. So I talked about what a front end is and what a back end is. And I said back end is divided into two, the server and the database. The front end is that part that we interact with. The server is that part that processes our information, while the database is that part that stores our information. Then after that, I now said at the front end, we have the HTML, which is like this foundation, which is like the skeleton of our page. We have the CSS, and we have the JavaScript. So I said, I'll be taking us the HTML, and another instructor will be taking us the CSS. At this stage, you'll be doing HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, and Git. We are not going to be considering JavaScript in this level. Now the CSS is meant for the styling, beautification of the page, while the JavaScript is meant for the logic, is the brain behind your page. So then I proceeded to open Sublime Text to explain, to write HTML codes. I talked about the extension. The extension tells your device how to open this file. And I said you use .html to create HTML file. You give it any name and you say .html. And I said, well, while you may add spaces, but I discourage it. I discourage it. Please don't add spaces. While you may, but I discourage it. Please don't. So we talked about tags. Tags are like commands that you're giving to your page. So, and I said to create a tag, put less than there, the name of the tag. We use sleep, and whatever you want to apply this tag to will be in the middle here. So let's say I want John to sleep. I'll say John. Then I close it like this. So what I'm just saying is John sleep. So this is the opening tag. Why this is the closing tag? I proceeded by saying that our tags can have attributes. Attributes are like more information about this tag. So it depends on how maybe I want John to have a deep sleep. I can say depth of the sleep. So I'm still giving more information about the sleep, and I can say deep. Then you can have another attribute, and I use coverlet, and I can say two of us. Maybe what I'm saying is John have a deep sleep without using coverlet. Then again, I proceeded by looking into other tags. We look at the H1 to H6 tags, which are used for headings, to create headings of our page, H1 to H6. Then we talked about the. Okay, I said please don't use the H1 to H6 to make text bold. If it's not an heading, please don't use any of them to make any text bold. Then we talked about some other tags. We talked about the strang, we talked about the EM. Then I proceeded by talking about the input the input tag. The input tag allows us to take information from our users. So get information from your users. Then what else did I mention? Okay, we talked about the P tag too, which creates a paragraph for you. Then we talked about the self-closing tags. Input is a self-closing tag, while HR is another self-closing tag. Then we also talked about inline elements and block elements. Inline elements are elements that can share their lines with other elements or with other items, while block elements don't share their lines with other items. I think this is a summary of everything we've done so far. Any question before giving us assignments?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
My question is, you ask us to download one of the three code editors you sent to us.
Yes.
So I want to ask, do the three code editors perform the same function?
Yes.
Because here you are using one.
Yes.
Are you saying that if you try to use the other ones, are we going to be getting the same results that we are getting here.
Exactly, sir. You will get the same. So in our next class, we will try another one, Visual Studio Code, and we also see
Oh,
how it works.
okay,
But
sir.
they do the same. You just need one of them, not all of them.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Sir. Thank you, sir. Now, okay. Now here is our assignment for the day. Please let's have an agreement before we move on. When we don't do assignments, there will be no class. Please, when we don't do assignment, there will be no. When I say we now, I don't mean everybody must do the assignments now before there will be class. But in a situation where the majority of us refuse to do assignment, then there will be no class. The reason is this: assignment is one of the ways how can be used to assess us and know how much you understand what is being taught. So in cases where you are not doing assignment, then I start doubting it. I start doubting whether you understand this or not. One. Two is this: we are not going to learn by not doing assignment. Like we won't progress at the rate we should. So somehow, permit me, we need to force ourselves a bit to do some stuff. Please, I plead with us. Please get the and if I've given us any assignments, it will be based on what is being taught. So please permit me. If we don't do any assignment, please there will be no class. Do we agree with this, or do we have any anything against it? Let me have a view.
Please, I have a how would I put it now? What if we are given assignment now and I will not be available for the next class? Can I submit my assignment on time or ahead of time to you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In fact, if how do I say it? We can always message me on WhatsApp and submit the assignment on WhatsApp, and that will even help us more because we won't be coming to class and start checking everybody's assignment. That will be, if you aren't careful, we use the whole day doing that without teaching a new thing. Purpose of the class should be after
Okay.
we've submitted our assignments, then I will go to it, or the instructor, I may not be the one to take us. Whoever is taking us, I told you after this part, another instructor will step in. Whoever is taking us, we check it, then come to class and make corrections. Maybe based on what I've seen, I realize that, oh, it seems that a lot of us don't understand this part. Then the instructor can now come to class and explain more on that part and teach us new things also for the day.
Okay. Okay.
Then when we do Gits, we'll be able to host our page online. We'll be able to host our codes online. That will be the last thing we do in this level. We'll be able to host our codes online. And with that now, you won't even need to send your file or snap your codes to me. You just send the link to me and or to whoever instructor is taking you, and they can see your work. And you can also send it to your friends and say, oh, this is what I've done, or this is what I'm currently doing, and things like that. It makes things more interesting. So, but although for now, the mode will still be maybe to snap it or to send the files to me, for at least for now, till we do Git. But after doing Git, you won't need all of that. You just post it online and you can send out the link to whoever you want to see it. Any question? Now, assignments. On my page, on what to write, we still proceed to this composition about yourself. Start composition about yourself. On this page, tell us about your brief history of yourself, information. You don't need to include sensitive information, just little information. Then brief information about your experience. At a point, you will now say, you want to, still on the page, these are those things that will be on the page. Brief information about your academic background, that can be maybe, you can name it maybe academic background. leave information about your work experience. You can name it good work experience. And also, do you want to contact us? Then you can say fill this form. In that form, you take the user's first name. Or do you want to contact me? You take the user's first name. Type the user will type is our first name. The user will type is our last name. And finally, the user will type is our email address. So we're going to, the user will type this name. First name, last name, email. So the user can be able to type inside these two inputs. Any question? Our next class will be considering some of these tasks. The hyperlink. We will consider how to add images to our page. So we'll be adding in our next assignment. We'll be adding images to this same assignment. Then we look at hyperlink. We look at images. We look at the form tag. Look at these two in our next class. But for now, our assignment is this. Give us information about yourself, like a composition about yourself, your conversation, your academic background, your work experience. If you want to contact me, then the user can now type your first name, your email, and last name. So, any question about the assignment before we call it a day?
When is the deadline for submission?
On Thursday, before the class, I have to close on Thursday, 8 p.m. on Thursday, since our next class will be on Thursday.
No question.
Have a lovely night, sir. Thank you for coming to class.
Welcome, sir. Thank you.
Very much.
Then I will